Hello, aspirants. I hope you are holding up. I know this stretch of preparation is the strange one, where the mock scores feel fine on a Tuesday and impossible on a Wednesday, and where the examination is close enough to be real and far enough to feel abstract. Both are part of the same fight. This is the Sociology Desk, issue 032. Today is not a wide brief, it is a tight brief. We are doing two events, and we are doing them properly. One sits in paper 1 on social movements, the other sits in paper 2 on violence against women, and it carries a Supreme Court judgment that is, frankly, written for an answer script. By the end of this video, you will know which concept to anchor each answer on, which thinker to attribute, and exactly how to deploy the current event so that the examiner sees theory, not narration. Let us begin. Event 1. On the 25th of June, 2 years after the storming of Parliament in Nairobi over the 2024 Finance Bill, Kenya saw a fresh wave of Gen Z mobilization. Same playbook. Organized through TikTok, Discord and Instagram. Leaderless on the surface. Mass on the street. Now you may be wondering how to bring this into a 20 marker. The syllabus location is paper 1, Politics and Society, subunit on protest, agitation, social movements, collective action and revolution. That is your crosswalk. The candidate who can see Kenya as evidence of a specific sociological claim and not as a news story is the candidate who scores 18 on a 20 marker. First concept, Manuel Castells, network society and what he calls mass self-communication. The idea is simple. In informational capitalism, power flows through networks of nodes, not through pyramids of command. So when a protest reorganizes itself through TikTok and Discord, that is not just communication, that is the very structure of the movement. The Kenya case is Exhibit 1. Leaderless coordination, decentralized iconography, a public sphere that bypasses parties and bypasses the press. Now teach yourself this rule. The form of the movement, that is Castells. But the form does not exhaust the politics. That is your bridge into the next thinker. Second thinker, and this is the move that will separate a top answer from an average one. Robert Michels, Iron Law of Oligarchy. From his work on political parties, Michels says, and you should be able to reproduce this almost as a formulation, that organization itself is the mother of oligarchy. Every collective endeavor, however democratic in intent, sooner or later, vests power in a small, self-renewing leadership. Because someone has to negotiate, someone has to raise funds, someone has to plan succession. Apply this to Kenya. Within months of the 2024 protests, a thin layer of spokespersons, NGO platforms, and aspirant politicians began speaking for the street. By the 2026 anniversary, that layer is consolidating. So your answer must do this. Castells explains the form. Michels explains why the form recollapses into representation. That is the 20 marker in one move. Now put on the examiner's hat with me. I have moderated this kind of answer. A 14 out of 20 script will narrate Kenya. It will say, there were protests. The police responded. Young people are angry. Inequality is rising. All true. None of it sociology. An 18 or 19 out of 20 script will do 4 moves. 1. It will open with a structural claim, not a definition. Something like contemporary protest in the global south sits inside the paradox of horizontal coordination and persistent structural grievance. 2. It will name Castells and his concept of mass self-communication, and it will use Kenya in only 1 or 2 sentences as evidence of that form. 3. It will pivot to Michels and his iron law of oligarchy to explain why leaderless movements drift back into representation. 4. It will add A.G. Frank's dependency framework to locate the grievance itself in the metropolis satellite financial architecture, because the finance bill is not domestic mismanagement alone, it is debt servicing in a peripheral economy. Close with the forward-looking synthesis, voice expanded, underlying order rarely transformed. Remember the refrain. The current event is your evidence. The theory is your destination. And here is the kind of question this can sit inside on Mains 2026. Is Robert Michels' iron law of oligarchy a historically contingent claim about early 20th century European parties, or a structural law of collective action that survives in the age of horizontal digital networks? Argue your case. This is what the framework calls Architecture D, a meta-theoretical question. It is asking you to take a position on whether the theory itself still travels. The Kenyan case is exactly your evidence to argue that yes, it does survive, but it works through new intermediaries, NGO platforms, donors, and diaspora finance. 20 marks, 250 words, even 2. This is the one I want you to write down and underline. Shankar versus State of Rajasthan. Citation 2026 INSC 315. The Supreme Court upheld the life imprisonment of a husband who set his wife on fire. Now read the language the court itself used. The judges said that legal and economic advancement coexists with extreme acts of violence, that dowry is outlawed, but the social legitimacy that sustains it is not, and that the persistence of such control over women's lives is a symptom of a disease-afflicted social order. That is the apex court doing sociology, in plain Indian English, inside a judgment. Syllabus location, Paper 2, Challenges of Social Transformation, Subunit on Violence Against Women. Crosswalk, Kinship and the Patriarchy subunit. This event is gold for Paper 2, and you should sync it with the right concepts immediately. First thinker for this event, Veena. The concept is ordinary violence. The argument, which she develops most clearly in her work, Life and Words, is this. The cruelty we mistake for exceptional rupture is in fact routine, folded into the everyday texture of kinship, dowry expectations, in-law authority, the policing of female autonomy. None of these are exceptional eruptions. They are the daily fabric of the conjugal household. So when a wife is burnt, the sociological mistake is to call it aberration. Thus tells you it is symptom. The 2026 judgment is doing the same move in the language of the Constitution. Use her by name, use the concept by name, and the examiner sees a candidate who has read the discipline. Second thinker, Beteille. The distinction you must hold in your bones is harmonic and disharmonic systems. A harmonic system is one where status, wealth, and power line up. A disharmonic system is one where they do not. India is the classic disharmonic case. We have constitutional equality at the macro level. We have rising literacy. We have anti-dowry law since 1961, and we have the burning of wives in 2026. That coexistence is not a paradox to be resolved. It is the structure of the order. Use Beteille, and you immediately explain why statute and judgment can punish without dismantling. Pair and Beteille in any answer on violence against women, and you have your engine. Now from the examiner's chair. A 14 out of 20 answer on violence against women will list the relevant statutes. Dowry Prohibition Act, Domestic Violence Act, Section 80 under the new Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita on dowry death, NCRB figures. Useful but not enough. An 18 or 19 out of 20 answer will do 3 precise moves across 250 words. Move 1, refuse the framing of the killing as individual aberration and call it ordinary violence in the Veena sense. Move 2, deploy Beteille's harmonic-disharmonic distinction to explain the coexistence of constitutional equality and conjugal cruelty. Move 3, do the C. Wright Mills move. Sociological imagination, translate the private death into the public structural fact, and notice that the court itself does this translation in constitutional register. Close with a forward-looking synthesis, the kind the court invites. Statute can punish. Only a cultural project can dismantle. That is your 20 marker. Quote the case title, even if not the citation. Veena, Beteille. C. Wright Mills, named by name. Concepts named by concept every single time. And the question, this can sit inside. In the light of recent Supreme Court observations that patriarchy persists as a disease social order. Critically examine the adequacy of statutory reform in addressing violence against women in India. This is Architecture C, a contemporary application question, and it is precisely the kind that has been ascending since 2020. Your answer plugs in Das, Beteille, Mills, names the Shankar judgment, names the NCRB pattern of marriage as the densest site of recorded violence, and closes with the cultural project synthesis. 20 marks, 250 words. Quick recap. 5 things to carry into your next practice answer. 1. Manuel Castells gives you the form of networked social movements through mass self-communication. Use this for Kenya. 2. Robert Michels gives you the iron law that explains why even leaderless movements recollapse into representation. Pair him with Castells. Never use one without the other in protest answers. 3. Veena gives you ordinary violence, the concept that converts a single death into a structural fact. Use this for any paper to answer on violence against women. 4. Andre Beteille gives you the disharmonic distinction that explains why constitutional reform and patriarchal kinship advance in parallel. Use this whenever the question pits law against social practice. 5. The discipline-wide rule, and this is the one to tattoo. The current event is your evidence. The theory is your destination. That is issue 032. One thought before you close this tab. The reason a small number of candidates clear this examination is not that they are smarter than the rest. It is that they kept showing up on the days they did not feel like it. That quiet daily continuity, when the world is asking you to do anything else, is the actual edge. Stay with it. If you would like the full-style PDF brief with the complete answer blocks, the model answers, the skeletons, the flashcards and the examiner notes, leave your email in the comments or write to the team at team@upscdesk.com and we will share the subscription details. See you tomorrow.